Episode 12. Shalom, this is Rabbi Eliyahu Mitroff with this week's Talmud podcast. This week we are continuing in Metzia 33b, and we're going to be doing the third Tosafoes. The Gemara reads like this: Matkif le Rabbi Bar Chama. Rabbi Bar Chama has a difficulty. A man cannot acquire a thing that's not in the world. So how is it possible, since the Mishnah says shilem, let's say nishpa, he acquires the future kefil, that if the thing gets stolen and if they catch the thief, that the kefil will go to the shomer since he paid for it, but that's not in the world yet. So how is it possible he could sell it to him? And even if you want to tell me that we hold like Rabbi Meir, that says that you can sell something that's not in the world, that's specifically like paros deco. In other words, if you sell a date tree for the sake of the dates, so then you can do such a thing. Lama the avdi da'asu, because for sure it's going to come. So even according to Rabbi Meir, who holds that you can sell a davar shelo ba'olam, it has to specifically be like the case of dates, which is not true here. Why? Because here, mi yemar shenignava, who says the thing is going to get stolen? And even if the thing does get stolen, who says they're going to catch the thief? And even if they do catch the ganav, who says he's going to pay? Maybe he would be modeh, he would admit that he stole and he won't have to pay the fine. So that is the difficulty of the Gemara. How is it possible that the case in the Mishnah it says shilem, or Lord say nishpa, that he acquires the kefil? The kefil is not a thing in the world, so he can't sell the kefil. Elamai, you want to say we hold like Rabbi Meir, who says you can acquire something that's not in the world. That has to be specific, like the case of dates. But here you have all kinds of svekot, whether the thing's going to happen or not. And it's not similar to the case of dates, where for sure it's going to happen. And that's the kasha of the Gemara. Comes along with Tosafoes, and he has a difficulty on the difficulty of the Gemara. He says like this: V'in tamar v'hachi afilu avdi da'asu ha'ik yiknei kefil v'maz shilem. Tosafoes asks, even if we know that this case is similar to dates and therefore it should work, still it won't work. Why not? Cash is not an acquisition. All cash does is it puts him under the category of the kalala, of the curse of mishapara. We know in the Dura Mabul there was a curse on any seller who received money and then changed his mind. But that's all that Mammon can do. Mammon is not a kinyan. It's a machlokis, whether a Mammon is kinyan or not. It appears that Tosafoes seems to be holding that Mammon is not a kinyan. So if Mammon is a kinyan, where is the kinyan? This is Tosafoes' difficulty. The Gemara seems to be assuming that if this case of paying and not taking the shavua was similar to the case of deco, of a palm tree that gives forth dates, so everything will be fine, and you would be able to sell a davar shelo ba'olam. Comes along Tosafoes and says, yeah, but what do we know about this case? We only know two things. He pays, and he doesn't want to take it to shavua. So where's the acquisition? It appears the only acquisition we have is his act of paying. Why? Because since he pays, so therefore he gets. So, but that's not going to help. Why? Because paying is not a proper form of acquisition, according to the rabbis. Even if you say the rice that works, and Tosafoes seems to be saying that we're not holding the rice that works, but where is the acquisition according to the rabbis? You have to have mashicha, you have to have hagbah, you have to pull the thing, you have to pick up the thing. There has to be some legal acquisition. Where's the legal acquisition in this case? That's Tosafoes' question. And Tosafoes' second question reads like this: V'on mai kaparach mesomek mi yamar shemignava v'halakash shilem kavar nignava. And Elamai, you'll tell me that the paying is an acquisition somehow. But then the Gemara doesn't make any sense, because the Gemara says, who says the thing is going to get stolen? At what point did he pay? Obviously, he paid after it was stolen. So if the assumption is that somehow he pays and therefore he acquires, why does the Gemara say that this is not similar to the case of Rabbi Meir by the fruits? Because who says it will be stolen? He's paying after it's stolen. It doesn't make any sense, the Gemara. So where's the acquisition? The kasha comes back. It can't be it's the paying. It can't be it's the paying because the paying doesn't work at all. And Elamai, somehow you would tell me that paying works, but then the Gemara doesn't make any sense because the Gemara's suffix is who says it'll get stolen. He's obviously paying after it got stolen. So those are the two kashas of Tosafoes. So before Tosafoes wants to give his answer, he wants to give a potential answer to his second difficulty. When the Gemara says who said it would get stolen, it's not who said it would get stolen and we know it was stolen already. It means, no, who says it would get stolen, which means maybe it got lost. How do you know it was stolen? It's dochak in the bashat, but it will make things work. Why? Because if we say that the tashlumim is the kinyan, the paying is the kinyan, so then we have a suffix. It's true that he paid, but who said it was stolen? Maybe it was lost. It's a little bit dochek, but it is a potential answer. So Tosafoes wants to answer. He says, "V'yesh lomar, the hamakshi sover the b'shas meshicha hakoni lo apara liknos hakefo kishiyavo." He answers like Rashi. He says, the B'shas Mashiach, that's where the kinyan was. The kinyan was at the original handing over of the animal. He had in mind that if it got stolen, this person will also get the kefil if he pays, but only the kefil. Yet Medaktek in Tosafoes, he says, the B'shas Mashiach at the time of the handing over, Hikne lo hapara, he gives him the para, not the real para, Liknos hakefil k'shiyavo, he gives him the cow, in the sense that he's going to get the kefil. And then the Gemara reads fine. V'af agav de perak mishameis, even though it says, Amr de bedechot de paras afil l'rabbanan moda de kone hainu mishum de abi da'aseh. That's only where for sure if the paras are going to come. But in the case of the cow, aval hacha de kol de abi da'aseh afil l'ramir lo kone. But here, in a case where it's not sure that it's going to happen, like which says on the next half of the Gemara, where we have all those sveko, so even a mer will not hold its kone, and therefore our kasha is good. The Gemara's difficulty makes sense. But the kinyan happened in the original handing over. And in the original handing over, he just had in mind to give him the kefil. And now it turns out that the kefil is a davar shelo ba'olam. Why? Because there's a lot of svekot. Maybe it's going to happen. Who says it's stolen? If it gets stolen, who says it catch a thief? Even if it catch a thief, who says maybe it's going to be moda? So therefore, it's still a davar shelo ba'olam. Ma she'ein kain by dekel, that would work. Because even though it's a davar shelo ba'olam, which means the fruit of the paras are not in the world yet, but for sure it's going to happen. And therefore, the Gemara is asking, how is it possible for shilem, v'lo it's say nishpa, if he pays and it doesn't make the shavua, how did he get the kefil? Because the kefil is a davar shelo ba'olam. But don't think that when he paid, that was the kinyan. No, that's not what it means. It happens to be that if he pays, he will acquire it. But that was thought about lichachila in the original Mashiach, the handing over of the cow. That's where the actual kinyan occurred. The paying was really a tanai, which is on the condition that if he pays, so then he would get the kefil. But our Gemara is stuck because there's a davar shelo ba'olam. But now Tosafoes has a further difficulty with our Gemara. He brings the Gemara in Gittin and says like this: V'kasha, the perach hasholech in Gittin on Membeis Amid Beis, it has a question. Mi boilan be'evid shemo charaba lekanas. Over there, the case is that a man wants to sell his slave for the kanas, for the fine. That they're dealing with animals, and these slaves have to deal with animals. Now, what happens if a slave gets gored and he dies? So then the owner of the animal that gored this slave has to pay the owner of the slave 30 shekels. So what happens? This guy says, listen, I'm going to sell you my slaves. These slaves are working out there in the field and they have to deal with animals, and this thing happens. It happens to be that sometimes a slave gets gored and he gets killed and he has to pay the 30 shekel. So he says, I'll sell you my slave, not really sell you my slave, I'll sell you my slave for the kanas. It's like buying a life insurance policy. You can buy a life insurance policy. Doesn't mean you bought the person. No. If the person dies, so you get paid instead of the person. So that's what's happening over there. But over in that that Gemara, they have a sveika, they have an iboye. They want to know if it works or not. The question there is, the Dilma da Fil Rabbi Meir lo yoyo. Maybe according to Rabbi Meir, it's not going to work. Why? Because maybe who says that the animal is going to gore the slave? For Fil Rabban de yoel, maybe it's going to work. Why? Mashum dahai kai avde v'havi kedeko. Maybe it is like deko in the sense that it's going to happen. The parasav. V'hacha, but the problem is now. V'hacha pashita le the lo mahani para lekafela v'fil Rabbi Meir. But our Gemara seems to be saying it's obvious. We don't have a sveika whether it works or doesn't work. We just say straight up that this case, the case where a guy pays and he doesn't want to take a shavua, the case where the thing got stolen, this case is obvious that it's not comparable to the case of Dekel. So Tosafoes' question is, why over here is it so obvious that when a thing gets stolen, it's not comparable to Dekel? Masha'en Kain, when slaves get gored, it's a possibility that maybe it is comparable to Dekel, and it will work, even though it's a Davar Shalom Olam, but it's going to happen, just like Dekel's going to happen, just like the case of the palm tree. I want to read over the Gemara in Gittin where it says that there's a sveika. The Gemara says like this. Iboy lahu, there's a question. Evid, shemachar rabba lekanas. What is the case of an Evid where the owner sold him for the sake of the fine? Mocher eno mocher. Is that deal considered a deal or not? Tiboy l'Rabbi Meir, but tiboy l'Rabbanan. It's a question according to the Rabbi Meir, and it's a question according to the Rabbanan. Tiboy l'Rabbi Meir, it's a question l'Rabbi Meir lad. Ad kan lo ka'am Rabbi Meir ad makni davar shelo ba'olam. Until now, when did Rabbi Meir say that a man can acquire something that's not in the world? Ela, it has to be kigon paras dekel, only something that's similar to paras dekel, which is sure the avi da'asu, which is surely going to come out. Aval hacha miyemar the manikach. Who says that the Yeshua is going to gore at all? And even if he does gore, who says he's going to pay? Also, since it's a kanas, the person who owns the shore can come running up to the guy and say, listen, I'm going to pay straight up, and therefore he'll be pater, he's moda. And it's also a question according to the Rabbanan. Until now, the Rabbanan held ein adam da makde davar shelo ba'olam, that a man can acquire something that's not in the world. Ela, that's because kigon de paras dekel dahash de miha lisnu, because paras dekel, where are the fruits? How can you buy it? The fruits are not here. Aval haka, but in this case of the goring, hai kai shur, you have the shur, v'hai kai avan, and you have the evid, so it's not comparable. What do we say in such a case? So we see clearly in Gemara Gittin, they have a question by the slave. Is the case considered a davar shelo ba'olam, but afal pi, since there's a good chance that it's going to happen, it's okay, and therefore you can't sell it? Or no, it's not comparable to that. But even on the side that is not comparable to that, maybe for a different reason the Rabbanan have a question, maybe it will still work, because here you have the shur and you have the man, which is not true by the fruits. That's really a davar shelo ba'olam, because it doesn't exist at all. So again, Tosafoes' question is, why when it comes to slaves do we have any boye, two-sided question? We don't know what to do. And when it comes to our case, it's pashut, it's simple, that this is surely a case of a davar shelo ba'olam. What's the difference between the two? So Tosafoes' first answer is, v'yesh lomer d'shema hasam shkiach tefei mahacha. It's more common that slaves that work with animals get killed than things get stolen and they catch the thief and he has to pay the kefil and the guy pays. It's more common, the case of slaves dying. And therefore, since it's more common, we will have a question. Is it comparable to Dekel or not? And that's why we have a question over here. But by our case, it's much more rare that the thing gets stolen and they catch a thief and there's kefil. And at the same time, the shomer says, I'm going to pay and I'm not going to take a shavua. That's less common. So therefore, we don't have a question over here. That's Tosafoes' first answer. Tosafoes' second answer reads like this. Inami haki parek im timsi lomer be'evid shamocha rabba lekanas v'lo mahani l'Rabbi Meir. No, our Gemara is only speaking on one side over there. Ain't no chinami over there, there's a sveika. But our Gemara is speaking on the side that it doesn't work on the slave. On the side that it doesn't work on the slave, so also here, surely it won't work either. So don't ask me, why don't we have a boy here? Because according to the second answer of Tosafoes, we're only speaking on one side of the boy, on the side that it doesn't work. On the side that it doesn't work by slaves, so it also doesn't work in our case. The advantage of this answer is we don't have to make a value judgment of how often it happens. We can assume that slaves being killed and shomrim paying for objects that get lost are equal. It just happens to be we're speaking on one side of the iboye. The downside of this answer is it's dochek to say that we're only speaking on one side of the iboye. Why don't we say we're speaking on both sides and we have a question? But I personally like this answer better because it doesn't get involved in the statistics and how often these things happen. Now Tosafoes brings the end of the Gemara, which says, "Umashne naase ka'omer lo kishenignav tashlumi hari parita bekunuya lecha." The answer of the Gemara is that he sold him the whole cow. The question was that it's not davar shelo ba'olam, so how is it possible? And our question was, where was the kinyan? So we had to come onto the fact that the kinyan wasn't in the original handing over. But still, even if you have a kinyan, it's still a kinyan on a davar shelo ba'olam. Why? Because he sold him only the kefel. The maskana of the Gemara is no. When he gave it over, he had in mind to sell him the entire cow. He says like this: if you pay me in the future, so you will acquire this cow lima freya, retroactively, at the point when there was a kinyan, the original handing over. And therefore, by paying, you automatically will receive the fine, because now it's like the animal's yours. And it's not a davar shelo ba'olam, because you got the whole cow. The cow is a davar ba'olam. So if you own the cow at this point, it's true that you got it retroactively, but still, it's considered yours. So now you get the kefel. Hari parita kenuya lecha ma'akshav. I sell you this cow from now. Shegufa paramoche lo. I'm giving you the body of the animal. The hashta kefel shelo b'meila. And therefore, the fine will be yours automatically. And we don't have a problem of a davar shelo ba'olam because he actually receives the entire cow. Okay, that's it for this week's class. Please share with your friends and please leave comment. Look below the video to see if there's links to material that can help you to understand this class.